welcome back to another Wabbajack tutorial from GingasVR. This one is for a list called Narsil, and this list is awesome. Out of the 3 Wabbajack lists that I've tried and made videos on so far, this one is my favorite, specifically because the other 2 lists I've tried, which was Librem and Ultimate VR Essentials, they were great, super fun. They look super beautiful, but they always affected my frame rate a lot. This one doesn't really affect my frame rate that much. It's very performance friendly, which is great as someone that records and streams VR content. This is kind of like a lifesaver, so I don't have to worry about fooling with a bunch of settings just to get more performance when I stream. It comes with all, your typical VR stuff. You can add things like Mage VR, it's already included. It's a little bit like Librem. It makes it a little bit more challenging than the vanilla game. It can all be adjusted. There's a lot of stuff here. It's also pretty easy to add some more mods if you know what you're doing and you want to do that. Leaves it open to add, some mods yourself. It comes with an alternate death system like Librem, not as hardcore. So when you die in combat, you have a choice to either stand up after you die with some injuries, or you can respawn a little bit further away, or you can even do a permanent or a permadeath mode, which I think I'm actually using just because I think it's a little bit more interesting, but you don't have to do that. And it also comes with some cool custom stuff like the Narsil sword from Lord of the Rings. Anyways, like a typical GingasVR tutorial video, I'm gonna have timestamps in the description. First, I'm gonna hop back into my desktop, go over the full installation of how to get this up and running in your own computer. Then I'll go over the MCM stuff. I might go over some of the stuff I added, but I didn't really add a whole lot. But yeah, awesome list, Narsil. So let me hop back into my desktop and go over that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Hello, so I am on my desktop and I am an anime VTuber because I don't like my face. I'm gonna try and make this shorter than my other tutorials. I've done this 2 times now. Take a look at the other ones if you want kind of like a more in-depth tutorial on how to install a Wabbajack list, but I will be going over this specifically for Narsil so we can get that installed on your system. This is the README. I'll leave this in the description of this video. I'd recommend taking a look over this as it's gonna be much more in-depth than anything I can do in video form. So let's get started. First things first, you're gonna wanna start up SkyrimVR, but if you have previously installed mods on SkyrimVR, you're gonna wanna go over to the file directory. If you don't know where that is, you can open that up in Steam. So find the game in Steam, right click it, do properties, go to local files, and then do browse. That will bring you to the folder. Here you can see it just opened up. Now, if you've previously been modding this game, either through Vortex or Nexus mod manager or whatever, what I would do is take this, just take the folder. I would copy it to a separate hard drive, or if you just plan on starting fresh with Wabbajack, go ahead and just drag this to the recycling bin, delete it, and then reinstall the game. That will just make sure everything is cleared out and brand new. And then you want to start up SkyrimVR again through SteamVR and save, get through the intro or whatever, and that will set up all the files you need and keep it nice and fresh before you install the Wabbajack list. So I'm going to assume that you've already done that. You have your SkyrimVR previously set up. We'll install a Wabbajack mod list for you so you can get a really awesome modded game. So to get the installer, you can go to wabbajack.org. I'll leave the link for this, or the GitHub. I'll leave the link for that as well. You can click on download. Now I actually already have mine. So we're gonna put this on our hard drive. Now before we do that, I wanna mention that this specific mod list, you're gonna want 186 gigabytes of free space plus the downloads. The download and the install can be separate, so you want at least 118 gigs free on whatever hard drive you're gonna be playing this on, and then 68 gigs free for the downloads. And it's also recommended that you install this on a solid state drive, and you don't want this in program files. So normally when you install a game via Steam, it's going to be under local files, program files 86, Steam apps, common, but you don't want this here. So it's recommended if you have another hard drive that is a solid state drive, I would install SkyrimVR on that. So I have another hard drive that I use for Skyrim and Fallout and for Wabbajack stuff. That way the mod list won't have any trouble connecting to the game and getting all the mods set up. Once you've installed the Wabbajack thing, you want to place that. I would place it in its own separate folder. So for me, I have a folder on my computer called Wabbajack, and this is where I just keep the actual Wabbajack program. That way it's nice and separate. You're also going to want to delete these folders that's in the README. I went over before the SkyrimVR program files 86. You want to install that on a separate hard drive, or the loot stuff. This could affect how the mod list talks to your game, and you might have trouble if you don't delete these. If you've previously installed another mod list, you probably don't have to do this. This is only if you're starting fresh for the first time. All right, so once you have your Wabbajack program in its own separate folder, go ahead and double click on that. That'll open up, initially it might load a bunch of stuff. That means it's just updating the Wabbajack program. And we're gonna full screen this and go ahead and click on Browse Mod List. And there's a ton of mod lists that you can peruse, including my own mod list for Fallout 4 VR, but that's not important right now. We're gonna do SkyrimVR, so this is where you can search for the category. You can search by name, show NSFW, so show utility lists, whatever you want, but we'll do SkyrimVR. These are the ones that are available. Now, if you want to see whatever mods are going to be installed on your system, you can click on this button here. That will open up a big long list, including the link directly to Nexus if it is applicable. A lot of the mods can also be made internally through this installer, which means it's a custom mod that's not available. So you won't be able to click on a link to that, but that's not important now. So we're going to do Narsil, which is right here. So click on this play button, install mod list. Now, before we actually install this mod list, what I want you to do is find the hard drive that has SkyrimVR. So if you installed it to a separate hard drive, in my case, I have it on this thing, other SSD. That's where I have my Skyrim installed under Steam Games, Steam Apps, Common. You'll see it here. You want to go to the root of that hard drive, and I would make a folder called Narsil. In my case, I'm going to do Narsil tutorial. And this is where you will actually install the mod list to. This will have Mod Organizer 2 once it finishes installing. And this is where you're going to launch the game from, essentially, once this actually installs. So we're going to go ahead and click on that Narsil tutorial. Now it will also put the download location inside of that same folder, but let's say you want to split it up because, like I said, you need close to 200 gigs of free space, but you can split it up. So if you want to put the download location on a separate hard drive, which is what I normally do, I have an old SATA hard drive, which is 2 terabytes because it was a lot cheaper. So I have a folder here just for the downloads, which I have as Narsil download. You can do that too. So just make a folder for that. And then for the best experience with installing any Wabbajack list, you're going to want a Nexus Premium account. First, you're going to want a Nexus account, obviously. So I'll have the link in the description for this, but it just, it's normal setting up an account option. And then Premium, that is recommended so you don't run into issues with the download speed slowing down. If you don't have that, you're going to have to manually download everything and throw it in the download folder. I won't be going over that. They got rid of Lifetime. So at the moment, I don't know where it is, because they changed this recently, but there's a way to get Nexus Premium. I would just get like a month if you're planning to install just a few mod lists. I think it's only like a few bucks to get a month of Nexus Premium. So go ahead and do that if you haven't already. You're all set to go. So once you've done that, you can click on Overwrite Installation if you want, and you're gonna click on this play button. That'll give you a nice slideshow of all the mods being installed, and this is gonna take probably a while. So go away and get like a cup of water, a cup of coffee or whatever, and then come back once it is finished installing. But once it completes, you should see a button here called Installation Complete. It'll be green and it'll have a link directly to this folder that you made before, which is this one, and that'll have everything installed for you. But we are just going to close that for right now. This is going to be the folder that you installed it to. Open up Mod Organizer 2 right there. You can double click on it. All right, so here is the Mod Organizer 2, and you should have all of your mods already installed. This is what it should come with. And I'm going to show you to link this to Nexus if you've never installed a Wabbajack list before. So if you've never used Mod Organizer 2, this is where you can download stuff. If you had like a separate hard drive, which is what I did, to fix that, click on the wrench icon here, go to the path section, and then change the download location to whatever folder you had as the download location if you had separated it out. And then you can click OK. And then if you press F5, that'll reset Mod Organizer 2, and you should have all the downloads and stuff here. The plugins is what's being loaded. So if you want to change anything, you can do that, which I will show you how to do that in a little bit if you want to customize this, which is not recommended. And Cyrion, who's the creator of this list, he can't support that if you change this at all. But to link this to Nexus, click on that wrench icon again, and then go to Nexus, and then you want to click on Connect to Nexus, and then I'll get your API key connected once you're logged in. So this is how you link your Nexus account so you can download other stuff to Mod Organizer 2. The game folder files, find the folder that you installed this to. Go ahead and click on the game folder files here, and then go to where SkyrimVR is installed for you. So that will be Steam Apps, Common, SkyrimVR. The game folder files, go ahead and copy this and paste it into this folder. You're gonna need all these files. I actually changed the Reshade, but I'll go over that in a little bit. But this is needed so you can actually start the game. with the mod list. So that should be copied over, drag that all over there. You want this to be run in portable mode. Let me go over some of the mods that you may want to customize. So before you change anything with this, if you plan to customize this, if not, go ahead and run it. But if you plan to customize it at all, click on this manage button under the profile. I have a lot here, ignore that. You're only gonna have the Narsil profile here. And then copy this, call it my custom game, and click on enter. And you can close that, and then you can select that. The benefit of Mod Organizer too is once you have a separate profile, you can start like messing with stuff or checking whatever you want, and it won't screw up the main mod list that you have, so you can always like go back. And I'll show you some of the stuff that you might want to add or customize yourself. One of the first things that I'd recommend doing is on default, MageVR is not in the game. I would recommend it just because I think it provides more immersion. If you don't know what MageVR is, most people should at this point. Adds like a physical backpack and some other stuff like gesture-based magic attacks. I customized it to only give me the backpack, but if you do click it on, I would drag it up above the 128th spot. That's what I did. To get it so it's only the backpack, you can right-click on MageVR, open an Explorer, and then you can do SKSE plugins, MageVR, and it's this INI setting. Now, if you just want the backpack, set all of these things to 100. That will get rid of the pose mode and the holster system, which VRIK already has a better holster system, so you don't need the MageVR one. You can keep the smart potions on if you want, but I just use the backpack button, and I kept it on grip, but you can change that button. So this will have it so you only have the backpack if you want some extra immersion, which this already comes with Higgs and everything, so you don't necessarily need that. I like using it. Auto sneak and jump. This will make it so you can physically crouch and sneak in SkyrimVR, because on default you can't do that. To customize this, which you're probably going to want to do, again, open up an Explorer, plugins, and this INI setting here, set it to higher than your height. So I'm 5'11", so I set it to 180. That's the threshold. I think on default it's also on jump alternate. I didn't like that. I like the regular auto jump, but play around with this and see whatever setting you like. If you don't want to add anything else, go ahead and skip ahead to where I will be going over starting up the game. But I will be going over some of the stuff that I personally added. These are the mods that I specifically added to my game. That would be hidden location and more info. And what this does, it'll hide the HUD stuff. I keep on the notifications on the side because I think that it's good for debugging stuff, but I like that gets rid of the HUD stuff, so it's more immersive to me. Immersive gathering and wood chopping is not included by default. I believe he's going to add this eventually, so this video might be out of date later, but this adds immersive wood chopping and mining or whatever. You can just click this on. None of this should conflict with his list, but keep in mind that if you do add this, then you won't get support from him. But the default version of this is great. And if you add this, I would also drag this up above the 120th spot so it'll work correctly. Immersive Winds VR. I've gone over this before. It costs some extra stuff, so this requires a smart plug, some fans, but this will add wind into the game. So if you have the smart plug and fans, it's pretty fun. iNeed is optional. It's just a needs mod, and I also have the VRIK immersive thing so you can drink physically. Again, I would like drag this up, and this one specifically, I think I had to drag this up. I had to do something in Xedit for this. So actually don't add this if you don't know what you're doing. Watch my other videos on Xedit if you want to add iNeed. I'm not going to be going over that in this video because I don't have the patience for that. Mute the music is optional. Mute some of the music in the game. Skyvoice, I have previously gone over this. This adds physical shouting to the game. Watch my videos on getting the voice recognition software to work correctly, because on default it might not be super accurate, but that adds physical shouting. And then I updated Spell Wheel, and Unspoken Shouts is good for the Skyvoice thing because it'll get rid of the words when you shout, so it'll be more immersive. I also wanted to quickly go over getting rid of the enemy health bars. Again, this is an optional INI edit. I do it every time I play SkyrimVR because I think that it's more immersive that way. So to do that, what you need to do in Mod Organizer 2 on your own separate profile, once you've made that copy, if you click on this little button here, it will have a drop-down menu. Click on Open Profile. That'll bring you directly to the profile, and then you want to find the SkyrimVR INI, and I will leave this INI edit in the description, and it's gonna be be this. So it has to be under VRUI. And then if you copy and paste this in the description, that will get rid of all of the enemy health bars, which I think is much more immersive versus having a giant health bar above every enemy or NPC in the game. The only issue with that is during boss fights, you might not know how much health an enemy has left. So for that, there's another optional mod that you can add called Perception, and it's right here. Again, totally optional. You don't have to do this. It shouldn't conflict with anything, but it basically just adds a spell, which you can add either with a console command or I believe it is in Dragon's Reach, and you can buy it off the mage there. If you just equip it and you shoot it at someone, it'll tell you exactly how much health they have left, which is useful if you're not using HUD. The Modlist comes with a Reshade already, which I think looks pretty good, but I personally liked the way the sharper eye looks more. I would try out the one that comes included with this, and again, that's going to be in the game folder files. So it'll be here, game folder files. Already comes with a Reshade, but if you want to use the sharper eye, which I like, or you can try out the new AMD sharpener thing if you want to. I think cast looks better personally. Go nuts with your own whatever visuals you want. This does not come with an EMB, which is great because that saves a lot on performance, and I think Reshade looks just as good in my opinion. I suppose you can play around with adding an EMB, but this is created with the intention of no EMB, so you might have some weird visual stuff. If you want to add the sharper eye, you can just drag that into your SkyrimVR folder and just replace the previous Reshade if you want to. Before we start it up, we're going to do some stuff to make the game more stable. He does go over this in the README. You can block the connection, which this should make the game more stable, but if you're using immersive winds, you can't do this because it won't work correctly if you block it. But if you're not using that, go ahead and block the connection. For SkyrimVR, he goes over that in the README, so that should help with stability. Now, I would also run both Mod Organizer 2 and the game on administrator mode. And I've gone over this before, but there's a cool program called Process Lasso, which I pretty much blocked anything else that this does. There's an option for it to like use more CPU power, which I would actually turn off because that could lead to issues with your PC. But if you set something to performance mode with this, then it'll automatically run on high priority every time you start it up, so you don't have to automatically go into task manager if you want to have like the most stable game or whatever. It makes it easier. It's a free program. I'll leave a link for that as well. The other thing I wanted to quickly go over is the Occlusion ESP at the bottom of Mod Organizer 2. You'll see it here. If you're having any kind of performance issues or weird CPU spikes, try checking this off and then going back into the game. I've noticed in my own game that having this on would lead to some weird stuttering sometimes, so I'm not really sure what was going on with that, but try checking this off. Now, that will go against the Modlist author's instructions, so if you do this, don't ask for help, but you could try checking this off and seeing if that helps any kind of weird stuttering that you may be having. Now, to run the game, you want to make sure that SteamVR is on, and then you have to do this every time you start up the game. You have to make sure that you open up Mod Organizer 2 or wherever this list is installed, and make sure it's on Narsil VR, and then you want to click on Run, and that will run the game essentially. You can also make a shortcut with this button, so if you put it on the desktop, that'll have a nice little shortcut, then you don't have to open this up every single time. You can just click on this, that'll run the game. All right, so I'll put on my headset and we'll get you set up with the MCMs. All right, so here I am in the menu. We're in the game now. It might take like a second the first time you load it up, but it shouldn't be too long because this list doesn't use an EMB or anything, so it should load up relatively quickly. We're gonna go ahead and start a new game, and we'll go through the character creation, MCM stuff. I also have this little overlay window with all the MCM stuff because I don't have a photographic memory, so I might be referencing this throughout. You can do this too. I just took a notepad and dragged all the MCM stuff over and then put it on my hands. All right, so character creation. You can see there are some custom races. The Lynch, make whatever race you want. I believe they're also different from vanilla. Now, one thing to note is the human races, and especially if you're playing as a human female, it might take like a little bit longer to load up. So I will not be choosing female, but if you do, it'll look like the game is freezing, so just wait. And the reason for that is because he has a bunch of extra hair mods in this, so it might take like a second for it to load up, but for the purposes of this video, I will be choosing male, and it might be dark, so he's not using race menu in this, so there's no extra lighting. Now, if for some reason you're having trouble getting your character the way you want, you can always open up the console after you go outside, once you choose your start, and just do show race menu, the console command, and then you can just customize your person that way. To exit, it's gonna be, at least on index, the A button on bottom button on this one. Click that, and then name your character. So initially, you'll have this, just click okay. If you have notifications on, you're gonna see this popping up, and just wait until this initially completely loads. So I'll skip ahead in the video until that happens. Alright, so once all those notifications have disappeared, you can move on to setting up all the MCM stuff. Now, I do know that eventually he plans to automate a lot of the MCM setup here, so what I'm saying right now might not be accurate several months down the line, but everything else in this video should be helpful to you, and even the stuff I'm going over right now. So first thing I'm gonna help you do is the VRIK body. So what you wanna do is I would first go into the MCM menu for VRIK. We're just gonna be at the very bottom right here. And initially, you're gonna wanna adjust the camera to your own preferences. So head above distance, I believe on default is 13, and the other one is on like 10 or something. So I found that putting head above and head forward, both on 9.5, is a little bit more immersive. The camera, I feel like, is more immersive for me, at least, but you might wanna play around with that depending on your own height or preferences or whatever. Now, you're also gonna wanna put offset comfort sneaking to 0. It might be on -18 or something, and that is for the physical sneaking and jumping from auto sneak and jump. And we're gonna do the holsters. You can also adjust the controls, so you can turn on selfie mode or turn it off if you want. But gestures are very useful, so to set this up, you can set this to whatever preference you want, but at least on index controllers, I found the best thing to do is right hand thumbstick press, and then you do press plus up. You do emulate key press and set that to quick stats, press plus down, put that on change outfit, weapon or spells, and then on select left hand weapon or spells. I would put that on the map of the provinces and isles, and right hands put that on the compass, which you'll have in your inventory. Press plus left, do emulate key press, quick magic, and then press plus right, do quick inventory. And what that will do is if you hold down the thumbstick on index or Oculus if you set it that way, and you swipe this way, you'll get inventory, magic, stats, and then because this list on default, it actually gets rid of the quick travel and map menu, a physical map from Navigate VR. So if I swipe down, it'll automatically equip the physical map. So I can physically search for stuff. Now we're gonna set up our body. So first, what you want to do is, if you don't have this already, I've gone over this in several videos, is advanced settings. So find a flat area in this little dungeon place. This is good enough. And then I would download advanced settings. Look at my other videos if you don't know what that is. And this will help you reset the floor, which will give you the most accurate body movement. It's very helpful. Free software from SteamVR. I'll put a link in the description. All right, so once you have your floor set up, go to the magic menu, find VRIK calibration, and then for index, it will be the B button on your right controller. So find that flat area, press the power key. First thing I would do is default size, and then do VR scale, and then finally headset height, and that will line up your body, and you're good with that. All right, now we'll do the MCM setup stuff. All right, RASS. I'm gonna disable all the camera visual effects because it looks weird in VR, so turn all that off. And then timing is everything right here. You wanna load preset, so go to extra options and then do load preset right here and stay in this menu until you get the key that it's been loaded. All right, spell research. This is gonna take a while. I'm not gonna do this because you're gonna see a bunch of pop-up menus. But anyways, what you wanna do is you wanna press import spells, and then you're gonna exit the menu, right? And you're gonna see a bunch of pop-up windows, and just click yes to each one, and it'll just say importing spells, and just wait. It's gonna take a while, so like 10-ish minutes, and just keep clicking import spells. That'll import all the spells into the game, into the spell research system, which is what you want, but I will not be doing that because I don't have the patience right now. All right, spell tutor. And you want to set spell learned right here to return. And spell wheel, you want to do load preset. Okay, it's been loaded, you can exit. Then if you want to customize spell wheel, which is what I've done, I've actually updated it because I use iNeed, but you don't have to. For at least on index, what I would set this to is I would do VRIK index touchpad, and then I would set this to empty. Do it the same on this side, and set this to empty. And then for the types, you can just customize this to whatever you want. So personally, I like playing as a spell sword in Skyrim, so I take off arrows. I keep favorited melee weapons, take off poisons. I keep food on my right hand so I can eat stuff easily. I take off spells and powers on this hand. And then for this, I keep favorited staffs, take off bows, favorited scrolls, spells, powers, take off shouts because I use physical shouting. I would just customize this. I keep potions on this hand and torches, and that way if I favorite a melee weapon. This list also comes with Narsil. I don't know if I went over that before. So you get this at the beginning and during character creation, which is pretty cool. But if I do that, it might favorite a spell or something. See, I'll have all my spells in this hand, and I just have to press the index touchpad. So I don't need to press the grip. It's much easier. Right, moving on, creature size variants. Load FSS right here, load the preset. Don't exit this menu. Okay, that's good. All right, knockout and surrender. You want to do enemies can choose to surrender right here, check that on. Lock overhaul, I'm gonna activate this. I'm gonna close the menu. All right, PSDI, toggle instant activation on. You want to toggle it on, so also click that on. All right, make sure time flies is enabled right here. Trade and barter, this isn't actually listed in his readme, but I would recommend you do this just to make the game a little bit more interesting. So I would modify barter settings and then set this to what you want. Personally, I keep mine on medium, but set this to whatever you want. Right here, simply balanced. I don't keep this on, but you can. This will let you adjust pretty much anything in the game, experience, attributes, really whatever you want to make your own balance and settings for yourself. This also is not in the MCM stuff, but I do this for immersion purposes. So better resource warnings. I've gone over this in pretty much every tutorial I've done, but I'll do it here as well. So for health options, I keep that on red, and I have the lower stop percentage on 75, right here, 0.75. And the modifier for health, I keep that on 80. Stamina, I do green, right here. Lower stat, again, I do that at 75. And then the modifier, I believe I keep that at 0.3. And for magic, I do black and white, lower stat percentage, 0.75. And then the modifier, I keep that at 1. And what this does with that mod I went over, which gets rid of the health bars and stuff, which makes it more immersive, you'll have information now when you're low on, you see it's getting more black and white because I'm almost out of mana. That will tell you, so you don't need to actually see a giant HUD in your face. You can adjust this to whatever you want. I believe I just kept it on default. I might have actually upped I think I put on rain occlusion because I personally like it, but on default, it'll give you the best performance. So I guess play around with this if you want, do whatever you want. You do want to keep off dynamic resolution, and you want AA on to get the sharpness from cast sharpener. Moving on, Mage VR, go ahead and just spawn the backpack. Once you exit the game and reload, if you have this and you put it on grip on your shoulder, it'll give you like a physical backpack to go through. Onyx Weather, this is just my own preferences of what you should do. I would do the power for Onyx Weathers, and then personally, I like having seasons on. I like keeping the seasons on. It makes it more interesting, but you don't have to do that. All right, finally, ZDO stuff. So this is optional. I will be showing you this in a little bit. This is the alternate death system. So ZDO immersive death is what is in this. Now on default, permadeath is off and you'll get injuries every time you die and you'll lose some items. Now I found that sometimes the injury system wasn't actually activating when I died, so I could just respawn with essentially no consequences. So what I've done, I customized this for me, but you don't have to do this. So what I did is I put the dropped item to 0. They'll have it so I can lose gold. That is fine, but I keep permadeath on, but I've changed this. So for the percentage chance, I have that at 100. I have the default lives count at 10, and then I have new life at 1 level. I'll get new life. Now what this is I have 10 lives, so at the end of 10 lives, I essentially have to restart a new game because it's going to destroy all my saves. But it makes it pretty usable because if you're constantly leveling up, then you'll constantly get more lives and stuff. And I also did something myself where I got rid of ZDO in Mod Organizer 2. I loaded up and did all my MCM stuff, and then I loaded it back in. So if I ever do lose my game, I can just essentially start back here and I don't need to go through all the MCM setup again. So only do this, only put on permadeath mode if you're okay with having to restart from the beginning. streaming if you do end up losing all your lives, but it's pretty unlikely as long as if you keep the settings I have, I feel like it's pretty usable in the game because you'll just get more lives constantly as you level up, but it makes it so you don't really want to die, which I think makes the game a little bit more interesting. I guess I can go over holsters. So most people know this, some holster stuff with SteamVR. You have your little weapon or whatever. And this is alternate start. The list also comes with some cool stuff, like you can destroy things in the game, like barrels, pretty cool. You know, it has Higgs, normal stuff for SkyrimVR. Higgs is the Half-Life Alyx thing, so you can like flick stuff to you. You know, if you've played Half-Life Alyx, you get the idea. And I'll just go over this, I guess, if you've never done this. I'll be an outlaw in the wild. Alright, let me go over to the bed. Click on this. Start your new life. Here I am. Alright, that's it. This is Narsil. Very cool list, very performance friendly. So far, my favorites, at least from a streaming and recording standpoint. Oh, if you're using iNeed or something, if you added that yourself, you can eat stuff with pigs. So you drag it to your mouth, press the trigger button. I'm in a dungeon. Well, whatever. Alright, you guys get the idea. Super fun list. If you ask me questions in the comments, I will try to answer them. I'm also active on TikTok a lot, and I stream on Twitch, so look me up there if you want. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.